I'm going to talk a bit about some of the things that relate to what is necessary, and I'm going to challenge your thinking, because my background is an academic as well, on the nature of what is it in human nature we need to grasp. And what is it that controls people's lives? And what is the fundamental flaw in all our thinking that the tendency to use this flaw prevents us dealing with when the change program, see, when you begin to change a brownfield site to move it towards a different culture, it goes through a transition phase. Things go wrong then. How management reacts to that determines whether it drives it back into the lukewarm, as I'll describe what lukewarm is, or whether you get around that corner. The reaction to people's making mistakes, and what I'll call the attribution of deliberate intent, tends to drive them, and they won't have a go. And I saw so many organisations that were so desperate to get change, but they didn't understand about human beings. So this program is primarily about seeing things differently. It's not about coming in and telling you what to do. That would be an insult to you anyway. I'm just going to challenge your thinking about how you see things. Because how you see things, how you see people, ultimately, of course, is how you're going to respond to them, how you're going to deal with them. Carl Gustav Jung, you've probably heard him, he was post-Freudian and had one of the deepest thinkers about the nature of psychology. He called it the collective unconscious. There's another level that connects us together. And it has to do with whether I see you as a resource to get from or to be defended against. So at another level, there's something else going on. You can't decide, well, this afternoon at 3 o'clock, I'll shift from fear to love. No, you won't. It's a letting go. But organisations, families, education systems can foster a shift. When you came out of the womb, you had no boundaries, no ego, no self, and no fear. Within just 3 months, you start a process. By 3 years of age, you put a boundary around this, and you put the mind in it. You would then identify with something that's vulnerable, attackable, rejectable, and mortal, and you became fearful. From that point on, everything you do is evaluating the situation in terms of minimising fear and gain. But there's another shift that people can make. Let go, come to a sense of awakening about that. So let's see how that works in organisations. See, here we are, we want people to make good decisions. Let's look at the rough process of how decisions occur. When you're watching the decision-making process, basically you're watching the activity of your left brain. Why? Because you're watching language go on and discussions and so forth. But you know the decision often has already been made in the right brain. The right brain is holistic. It assesses instantly. You walk in a situation, you assess it instantly. You assess it according to what's going on here. So obviously this is the emotional side, the parallel process, the much more powerful side. Intuition here. Einstein said, intuition is king. Reason is its servant. The modern age has attempted to reverse this order. So he promoted the idea of intuition. So here, I already immediately react. Then it says, left brain, find some reasons to justify and support what I've already come to. You might say, the decision is made in the left brain. Well, they did some experiments, didn't they, with a functional MRI, put the person in there, give them some questions, get them a button to press, and as soon as they'd made their decision which way they'd go, press the button. They come out, and the experiments say, well, we predicted which way you'd press the button up to 7 seconds earlier than you press the button, and we know which way you're going to go. How can you know what I'm going to decide before I do? Because the decision's already been made, and it was registering in the brain, the right brain. That's a bit of a shock to my ego, but there is a way to deal with these things. If fear is the preserving motive, someone said it looks too much like me, but one of my students drew this cartoon for me. This is King Will. And the ego is constantly observing threats to his treasure. Here's the treasure, the self-concept. The intellect is the troops over here. So as soon as the ego sees a threat to the self, says to King, there's a threat here, King Will says, protect me. That's why you can never win an argument, because you can draw the person to the halt. But they just say, oh, I can see that. No, they can't. They just want to get rid of you. You can never force a person to see something they can't afford to see. So when you work with organisations, pressure prevents that process of the right brain effectively coming about. So the King Will directs the armies of the intellect to defend the self. So we have to help people not feel threatened at that level. So there are four major factors that shape your life. Biological, obviously. You line up 100 murderers, about 6 are female. Why? Because males just choose to murder. No, they don't. There's some biological factors in there, you can guess it. Then there's a sociological potential. These are potentials. They don't cause anything. Oh, that person acted badly because of his father or his mother or something that's wrong. All those things are potentials. They don't cause anything. But they're potentials. Then there's the environmental potential. You might say, but you chose to be here tonight. No, I didn't. I made a decision that felt free. I'm not against feeling free. The less I expect, the freer I feel. Oh, I want to feel free. But if I'd been born in the next bed than the one I was born in, all those nearly 70 years ago, I'd be somewhere else reacting to a different set of circumstances. Core motive. That's what's determining how the potentials. Potential is a potential. But what collapses the potential into manifest behaviour is this factor outside this. And some people even believe it could be non-local. This is the core motive. This is what makes you human. This is what makes you more than an animal. Animals make decisions. If I'm at home and I call the dog and my wife calls the dog, it makes a decision. She feeds it more often. That basically is decision making. But the dog doesn't have a choice, although I see some people treat their dogs as if it did. I've even had a student hit a computer as if the computer had a choice. So these are the factors. Now, good management, of course, will work on looking at those factors, but they often forget that this determines how successful it's going to be in maximising the potential that's already in their people. Of course, there need to be consequences. Without consequences, there is no learning. One time in the power station, there were some guys who acted pretty badly. It went through due process, finally ended up in Ted's desk. He said, fellas, well, I'm going to give you an opportunity here. You can either resign voluntarily or put all the evidence in front of the police. They resigned. He said he wasn't mad at them, wasn't angry at them. He said it was an act of love. If I hadn't done that, they wouldn't have learned. Without consequences, there's no learning. We need consequences. But consequences in the context of blame prevents learning. If you want to have one thing tonight, blame prevents learning. Fear has many faces. We should look at them in organisations and see how we can undermine that to maximise. Or we want responsibility. Absolutely. We want quality. Absolutely. We want the maximisation of people's ability to give the best they can. Whenever I see anybody get upset with someone else, I know in their thinking there's an assumption they have never questioned. You never get upset with someone's behaviour. You get upset because you think they could just as easily have acted differently. The fundamental flaw in all our thinking, and we've seen this again and again in the industry we work with, the fundamental flaw in all is the tendency to attribute deliberate intent to human behaviour. You might say, but what if it was intentional? Think again. Because the choice isn't in the decision. The choice lies deeper, that all the decisions are serving within the context of the potentials of one's unchosen life. So our theme with organisations to try to get the maximum from what the potentials were already is to remove all those things that produce the barriers and the fears. I wrote a poem one time to try to get this over. I said, if you think someone has wronged you and you wish to pay them back, if you look on them as guilty and say, thank God I'm not like that, remember that they never chose their birth, 'twas merely chance. Like you, their motives, love or fear, all else is circumstance. So really it's the motive that you're judging. They don't choose the things they do, and the motive that you're mad at is the same one driving you.